Ya.
Cuman karena sesi sebelumnya itu agak terlambat, jadi kemungkinan sih teman-teman juga kayak masuknya terlambat, Pak.
Nggak apa-apa kalau dari saya, Bu Eni, emang available saya sampai jam 4 sesuai rencana sih. Kira-kira
Oke, baik.
berapa gitu? Kita mau.
Mungkin 5 atau 10 menit mungkin ya, Pak.
Oke, nggak apa-apa Mbak. Saya standby saja ya.
Oke,
Berarti.
makasih.
Ya, sama-sama Bu Eni.
Yes, Daniel, what questions? You still muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Hi, Bo. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. So actually, I have a question about the sessions. We have a total of 15, right?
Yes,
It's 15 sessions, right?
I think so.
Oh, yeah. Because I afraid if I miscounted because for the learning journal is minimum 15. So I thought maybe I miscounted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to check again because it's not numbered, but
Yeah.
only schedule. Let me count, including the opening session.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, including the opening.
okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's actually 16.
16.
Around 16.
16.
6.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are, I don't know where I'm missing. I forgot.
It's for the opening session, there is 3 keynote speech. So it's 3, 2 session in the second day. Third day, 2 session also. Fourth day, 2 session. Fifth day, 2 session.
11.
Sixth day, 2 session. And today is 1, 2, 3 sessions.
Oh, we have 3 sessions today.
Yeah, 3 sessions.
Okay.
In the morning, in the afternoon, and this one, the last session.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think I missed the morning one. I forgot. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Should we start at 2:35 maybe? Another one more minute. We can start.
Oh, yeah. Sorry again, ma'am. I have another question.
Yes, sure.
Yeah. About the deadline, it's on 19 or 20? 20.
For the learning journal?
Yeah.
For the learning journal, I think it is 19.
19.
19? in the schedule that I've got, the deadline submission for all the event assignment is on Thursday on 19th of August.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, because mine maybe I got the because mine day return is 22nd.
Oh,
Yeah.
22nd, I don't know.
20, sorry. Friday, 12
Oh,
p.m.
you should confirm again with the committee, because in the rundown that I have got,
Mhm.
your deadline is on 19, but I don't know, maybe there's some changes. I don't
Okay.
know.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, let's start our last session, shall we? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome again in ESL Summer Course 2021. I know all of you have a long day, maybe long weeks. This is the last session before the end of the session or in summer course. Sorry, I have. Sorry, everyone. I've just recovered from COVID-19, so there is some slight symptoms that I've got, but all in all, I've recovered from COVID-19. Okay. Before we start our session, I would like to have maybe some fun question for you guys. Only one questions, and it's I will. I will copy the link. I will copy the link for you. Sorry, I have to check again. The link, this is the link for the quiz. It's just one question. It's not that hard. It's like you have to mention sustainability goals. It's not like that. Okay, have you seen the link on the chat box? You can click it and try to answer the questions, and I will present it for you. Just a fun question before we start the session. Let me. So only one answer so far. You have difficulties in accessing the question? Only one answer recorded. Anyone? Daniel, do you have any difficulties in accessing the link? You can try to answer the question on the link I put in the chat box. Anyone? Anyone is here? Just to checking your attendance. Okay, there is three answers. Okay, let me just. Okay, there is 5 answer. Anyone? Anyone? Anyone is here from like 40, like in 47 participants, only 9 answer. Time manipulation, teleportation. What is G? Time travel, see the dream. Healing abilities, oh, 16 people answered. Are you here? I just want to check your attendance here before we start the session. Okay, 16 people answering. Is there more answer? So teleportation. So Looks like teleportation is one of people's favorite superpower abilities. Okay, 25. Healing abilities, time manipulation. Teleporting, okay, time travel. Anyone? Any more? Any more questions? It's only half of you. Join. Okay. Let me answer Gemma question first. Oh, mornings, earlier season, Sunday, 10. Okay, invisible. Healing abilities, time manipulation. Okay, thank you so much for 32 people that answered this question. It's just a fun question. If you could add any superpowers to your abilities, what would you choose? Apparently, the popular answer is teleportation. In this pandemic time, it's easy to imagining you are in the other place. Okay, thank you everyone who was participating in the quiz. Okay, so let's start the session. It's good to be here and see you again in a good health. I hope you all in a good health. This is our last session in the ESL summer course before you have time to finish all the assignment, and then the closing ceremony or closing session. Okay, my name is Annie. I am an alumni from ESL, and I will be responsible for hosting this presentation today. I'm glad to welcome Mr. Nanda Noor MSc, or may I call him Pak Nanda? Pak Nanda, are you here?
Yes, I am, Bueni.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you
you,
for the invitation.
Pananda, who joined us today, and he will be presenting about estimating individual carbon footprints and plan the action to reduce it. Mr. Noor, or may I call him Pananda? Pananda is a researcher in the World Resource Institute Indonesia, or we call it WRI Indonesia. And during his works in WRI Indonesia, he often leads. Okay, sorry, have a slight interruption. Okay, during his works in WRI Indonesia, he often leads action research, programmatic implementation, and also strategic engagement with government, companies, and communities related to sustainability project, right, Pananda? And in his free time, Pananda enjoy to listening classical music, playing tennis, trekking in the beach, or forest trekking. If you would like more information about his presentation and also his complete biography, you can access from the website or from the information from the committee. At the end of this session, before we end this session, Pak Nanda will answer questions from all of you. If you have questions, you need to select icon raise hand, and then I will unmute you. And now, here's our speaker. Give a warm welcome to Nanda. Please, Nanda.
Thank you so much, Bu Annie, for the invitation. It has been an honor for me to be invited the second time, actually, to this great summer session. Looking at the weather now outside in my place in Bandung now, it's pretty hot. Hopefully not the effect of long-term climate change, but it's still good. I mean, it's still warm and still manageable, and I hope this situation, the climate crisis, I would say, that we are experiencing now can be managed in the next few years, especially if everyone here has been listening about the recent publication by the UNFCCC and IPCC on the 6th assessment report on climate change. But before all that, and before we get into the complicated things, a warm welcome again to the session, everyone, wherever you are in this world. We have 52 people. Hopefully everyone is staying healthy. I just knew that Bu Annie was having some pandemic situation, but I hope you are getting better, Bu Annie. Yeah. Nanda here, as mentioned by Bu Annie. I am working as a researcher and project leader for emission sequestration and sustainable landscape and business in Labora, Indonesia. And today I have the honor to present and share a bit. Consider this a two-way communication, everyone. So feel free to drop me questions even during the presentation, which I hope to finish within 30 minutes, I think. Please drop the questions in the chat box. And then if I have time later, then I will be able to answer that during the discussion or afterwards. Yeah. So here we go. So I hope everything is working well because I'm now sharing a video first. Please let me know if the sound does not work. And I assume everyone is looking at the screen now. Yeah.
Perkenalkan, ini Jumi. Akhir-akhir ini, Jumi sering merasakan cuaca yang tidak menentu, seperti panas yang ekstrim maupun hujan berkepanjangan. Jumi berpikir mungkin ini adalah salah satu efek dari krisis iklim. Jumi tidak salah, perubahan cuaca yang ekstrim merupakan salah satu dampak dari krisis iklim. Jumi pun teringat video pejuang bumi yang menunjukkan bahwa aktivitas manusia adalah penyebab utama dari emisi yang memperparah krisis iklim. Kini Jumi bingung, apa yang bisa ia lakukan untuk melawan krisis iklim? Bisakah individu sepertinya melakukan sesuatu untuk menghadapi perubahan iklim? Untungnya sekarang ada aplikasi emisi. Di sini Jumi bisa melacak dan menghitung emisi dari aktivitas sehari-harinya. Dari makanan yang ia makan, baju yang dipakai, listrik yang digunakan, sampah yang dihasilkan, hingga moda transportasi yang ia pakai dalam perjalanan. Semuanya dapat dihitung dengan mudah. Jumi hanya perlu memasukkan informasi ke aplikasi emisi yang pilihan pada fiturnya sudah disesuaikan dengan karakteristik masyarakat Indonesia. Dengan visual yang menarik dan mudah dipahami, Jumi dapat melihat emisi yang ia hasilkan dalam periode minggu, bulan, maupun tahun. Juga perbandingan emisi dari setiap aktivitas yang dilakukan. Ternyata lumayan juga ya. Tapi tenang, aplikasi ini juga bisa membantu Jumi untuk mengurangi emisi. Dari informasi mengenai mengubah aktivitas menjadi pilihan yang lebih ramah lingkungan, hingga ajakan untuk menyerap emisi dengan menanam pohon. Oh, Jumi mau mencoba menanam pohon? Jumi bisa menanam sendiri atau menanam melalui organisasi penanam pohon di Indonesia. Klik ikon pohon, lalu aplikasi akan menyuguhkan berapa jumlah pohon yang perlu ditanam untuk menyerap emisi. Juga menunjukkan berbagai mitra penanam yang dapat membantu menanamkan pohon sesuai dengan kebutuhan Jumi. Melalui para mitra penanam, pohon-pohon ini akan ditanam di berbagai wilayah di Indonesia dan melibatkan petani setempat. Sehingga dengan menanam pohon melalui aplikasi emisi, Jumi tidak hanya menyerap emisi, tapi juga turut memberikan dampak ekonomi dan sosial terhadap masyarakat yang tinggal di sekitar pohon. Kamu juga bisa menjadi seperti Jumi, menjadi pejuang bumi dengan menghitung dan menyerap emisimu. Dengan membiasakan menghitung emisi dari aktivitas yang kamu lakukan sehari-hari, kamu dapat menjadi lebih bijak dalam memilih aktivitas yang lebih ramah bagi bumi. Dan dengan turut menyerap emisi, maka perlahan dampak dari krisis iklim bisa terhindar. Yuk, ajak teman-teman serta keluargamu menjadi pejuang bumi. Dimulai dengan mengunduh aplikasi emisi dan kunjungi nol-emisi.id.
All right. Hope everyone can listen to that video clearly because the vocal is in Indonesia, but there were English subtitles all over it. And even though the application now is in Indonesian language, hopefully at one point we will have the English translation of the entire application. So that's kind of the opening part of my sharing session today. Now, it might have given you some idea about what I wanted to share, estimating carbon footprints using, that are easy and accountable as much as possible, that are relevant to especially young people here, and driven by good science and relevant technologies, especially using our own fingertips. So with this, I hope everyone can look at my slides now. That video is my opening part, and WRI itself is a independent Indonesian foundation established in 2014, affiliated with our global office in Washington, D.C., a think tank organization focusing on sustainable development. We are focused on research, but also doing policy action through recommendations in the field of environment, economy, and welfare. These are 5 critical areas that we are working on. The forest and land use, energy, ocean, cities, and climate. Also, water and food to some extent. But before I dig deep into the content of my presentation, I would like us to start with another quiz. So a few questions just to get our knowledge going. And feel free, Bu Eni, if you can facilitate anyone that wants to answer, I will give them multiple choice actually. The first question is, in your guesstimates, what's the percentage of Indonesian population that are aware and believe that climate crisis is caused by mainly human activities? The options are up until 25%, until 50%, 75%, or almost all of them. Feel free to guess. I'm not sure we have prizes, but
well, maybe you can choose A, B, C, or D. A, 0 to 25%, B, 26 to 50%, C, 51 to 75%, D, 76 to 100%. Right on the chat box. Most of the answer is B, Pak Nanda.
B, bravo. Okay, so that's
bravo.
6 to 50%. So let's try clicking the answer. Yeah. Oops, unfortunately, it's not yet correct. But
not yet correct. The other answer is C.
C. So you're curious and want to try answering again, right? C is this one?
Yes.
That's actually correct. Yes. So there are around 55% of Indonesians who are aware and believe that humans are the main causes of climate crisis. But this means there are still 45% who have not been aware and believe. So this is still a number that we need to work on and also become a foundation for laying out the programs and why estimating carbon footprint is important. Right, let's go to the second and actually last question. Oops, sorry. Yeah. Have you ever tried calculating and reducing your own emissions and pollutants from your daily lifestyle? Another 4 multiple choice answers. Yes, I have been doing this for some time too. Yes, but have only been trying this for a bit. not yet, but once had a plan to try, or no, have not been thinking about it so far? Anyone wants to volunteer, or what's the, again, majority of answers?
Okay, this is the question to test your honesty. to
Is
test
that-
your
Yeah.
honesty. So both of you as B. The answer is B.
B or C,
Okay.
I think, yeah.
No, B. Just
B?
B. I haven't read C, so it's B. C is from the last question. Okay, majority is B, Pananda. Yes, but they only been trying this for a bit. Pananda, are you with us? I think he's freezing. Okay. Looks like he has a problem with his signal. So the answer majority is B. Most of you answer B. B is you are trying to reduce the emission. Okay, let me check Pak Nanda first. Okay, here you back again. Pananda, you still muted? Pananda, the microphone is not working. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I have to unmute you.
Yes,
Okay.
there you go. Thank you, Bonnie, and apologies, everyone. I think I have a misfunction on my laptop somehow. Let's continue. So everyone was trying to answer Bravo, right? So,
Bravo.
but only been trying this for a bit. Let's see. So congratulations, basically. Any other Deborah Indonesia staff, your lifestyle has been to be more sustainable, but it's not easy. The question is, have your actions been based on science and technology? Which is why we have this session today to estimate carbon footprint and plan the actions to reduce it. So let's see what's the story behind this, everyone. So in theory, Deborah Indonesia have been trying to implement this. So we have a programs to reduce environmental impact or improve environmental performance of governments or communities or companies, but we don't want our negative impacts on the ground are negating our own environmental benefits. So when we are, let's say, from all of our activities, we are also releasing emissions in order for us to reduce emissions for other people. For example, we are taking trips, flights here and there, we are consuming meat, we are using electricity to fire up our laptops and everything. And we don't want that environmental negative impact outweigh the positive environmental benefits that we are generating from our programs. So we don't want ourselves to be not entirely practicing what we are preaching. So we understand that operation and facilities use dirty energy, fossil fuel mostly, especially in Indonesia, unfortunately. And the issue is there, the consumer behavior at work stays affluent, and that there are lack of incentive and ways to reduce because the change driver itself, that emission data with M&E mechanism are lacking, which is needed as well. And then we need research on emission sources that can be managed. And then the people participation here is pretty much important, because in order to reduce emission and planting trees. The countable project means we are canceling emissions in the first place before we are able to sequester the remaining ones. And the positive goal is that WRI Indonesia or its personal staffs can be a net zero emission person or think tank. So that's kind of the theory that we are trying to look at. But what is it in practice? In practice, we are trying to show that emissions are manageable, but to what extent? If you look at this graph, their proportion of emission from our 5 offices in Indonesia per month, we are dealing with these amount of almost 30,000 kilograms or 30 tons of carbon dioxide per month over the year of 2018, which leads us to 300 kilograms carbon dioxide average per person. And by doing that, by calculating that, we know that we need to do something. And our global office have separated that into 7 parts, and Indonesia have fulfilled 6 of it. Sustainable land transport, meaning we are doing carpooling. Zero emissions, we have not done that yet. We have a policy though on food management, meaning we don't anymore order red meat for our office events. We only order vegetables, and to the best are white meat. And then conscious consumerism means we are replacing our goodie bags and stuff for events into adoption of trees. We also reduces our flight programs in order to reduce the emissions from business travels by having less transits and everything. The office also have programs on energy efficiency, and we are also purchasing renewable energy certificates. So we are using geothermal for our own office electricity. And then sustainable mindsets where everyone have the ability to be agents of change. The issue here is, one, we need a behavioral change shift that everyone can be a bit more efficient in their work. And second, we don't want to hinder our productivity for the sake of efficiency. And third, emission canceling first rather than sequestering it or absorbing it using nature-based solution or other ways. The thing is, this is perhaps one of the first key message that I have, that emission and climate action need to be transparent to have big impacts. And transparent means using numbers. For example, in our daily lifestyle, whenever we are having transport, using electricity, buying clothes, eating, they have emissions per mode of vehicle or kilometers of distance or kilograms of purchasing. And also its pollutants. The number ranges a lot depending on the consumption factors. It releases carbon dioxide, SO2, NOx, CO, PM2.5, and other types to the atmosphere. But that's just one side of the coin. The other side is to have a solution towards that negative environmental impact, such as tree planting. Different trees produces different oxygen and also stores different amount of carbon dioxide, which means sequestration per tree per year depends on growth factors. So if you see at these two numbers, if we are matching those two, then we'll have a number which can make them equal or zero. And if this is happening, then we are looking at behavioral change shift by people who would be saying, so if I plant 1 or 10 or 100 trees in my backyard or school or office, would it be enough? Or do I need more trees? Or do I actually need less trees because my lifestyle is actually already positive enough, already good enough? Or if I still need to act more, what kind of action should I take? What type of trees should I plant? What type of lifestyle should I reduce the emissions so that I can make my life zero emissions? So those kind of questions are the ultimate goals of why do we need to estimate carbon footprint first before we are doing something about it, at least scientifically. And if we are talking about reducing emissions, then we are also talking about a city planning in wider context. So earlier I mentioned about emission cancellation, right? So this three type of approach: avoid, shift, and improve. In the case of transportation, we can minimize travels due to integrated development, or we're just taking a non-motorized transport, like just walking, or just taking a bicycle, yeah. Or we are shifting to public transport because it has lower emissions, or we improve our vehicles, such as going electric vehicles or partly hybrid and stuff, even though it's not ideal, but it's still going towards lower emissions and other co-benefits such as health and to some extent economy as well. And why we are proposing also planting trees, because it goes beyond sequestering just CO2. There are various benefits of tree planting, from improving water quality, providing sustainable timber products, improving soil health, mitigating climate change, of course, air quality, biodiversity, employment, and also recreation. For people here who likes going to the forest, then you'll get that benefit as well. Now, calculating emissions, we believe that I mentioned there are so many factors affecting it, but it can be easy and accountable. So for the last few years, months and years, we have been conducting research as a think tank on how the methodologies for calculating urban transport emissions and other activities should be conducted. So these two papers are the ones I was talking about, and we have it online, accessible for free for everyone to utilize as one of your references. But the idea is to have Indonesian science or local science as much as possible. So it depends on the country, based on ground information. We know that calculation is not always simple. There are lots of factors and limitations, but calculator should be easy to apply. It can be reviewed nationally and globally for it to have good accountability. It must be open and transparent to the last details, updated periodically every year or so. And yeah, it can basically be downloaded at our websites. So those kind of research based and science-driven calculation of emissions should be the way to go if you want to manage what we are doing, because we cannot manage what we don't measure, right? So we believe it should start from there. Now, that's the science part. And what's the technology part? I mean, how do we turn that complex science into something easy for people to use, right? To utilize. So there is what we call MEC application, a mobile based application, basically. It's an option for multi-sectoral collaboration. In that application, we can learn what is emission and its sources, learn how to calculate individual emissions per day, act directly to reduce and sequester, help restore forests following the local needs, and help emission and tree science in Indonesia. So the scheme is something like this. So any individuals can try using the app to understand how much their emissions are, contribute to planting through public and private organizations, give it to tree planting and growing partners, which provides tree health and growth data to independent monitoring system, which gives back the climate action and emission reports to the individuals. These are the visual of the application, and feel free to use it. The application itself is for free in Android, iOS, and website version of it. This is just some of the interface that we are using. So the emission sources, how to reduce, how to sequester, the transport, electric appliances, clothing, food, waste, trees, data, and also the emission sources. So hopefully the simple user interface can help induce behavioral change for people, because many people out there are not environmentally aware. So it must be really, really interesting for them to do this. One of the few things that must be mentioned as well when we are planning our action to reduce that emissions that we have measured is to have a fair opportunity for all. We can start from as simple as $1 to plant and grow trees. These two are examples of our crowdfunding programs facilitated by us but conducted by different crowdfunding platforms to fundraise from the public to plant trees based on their emission numbers. So as much as $60,000 to $80,000, dollars, which was almost 1 billion rupiah was raised to fund the trees and planted in Aceh, Jambi, Jakarta, West Kalimantan, and it has messages pertaining to emissions, economy, health, and science. So these examples of fair opportunity gives us understanding that, yeah, probably everyone, they can spend $1 to plant and grow a tree. And they don't have to be difficult to do that because it's simply using their fingertips, they can do climate action. They don't have to procure the trees by themselves and manage the trees by themselves as well in their backyard, but they can have other people do it for them with just starting from $1. These are our planting areas in 3 places that we've been doing so far, growing to other areas. And we believe that any cities can continue to become low emission areas. These are some of the planting sessions that we have with local communities. And as you can see in the picture, turns out most of the planters on the ground are women or children. Children meaning teenage, not children, but like teenage who are willing to help their parents and like to be able to protect their environment, their forests that have been living for generations. And we're glad to have them join to the initiative as well. Youth as users can be one of the main change agents. So if you can look at this kind of illustrations that we are trying to calculate, estimates of how many climate actions that we can do together. So let's say we have the population of Indonesia at 270 million, quite an accurate number. The young aged are around 150 million of them. And only 113 million of them are exposed to technology, determined as internet and smartphone. But only 78 million of them are aware about climate crisis. Because there's some research saying that a bit more than two-thirds are aware, even though not all of them believe so. That's why we have the first question in the beginning of this presentation. But unfortunately, perhaps only 15% care about climate crisis. We've been looking at some research and found quite a low number of people caring and ability to conduct climate action. Only 12 million left, and then 64% of them are planning to act, meaning if they have to spend extra $1 to make their product greener, are they willing to do so? And we understand that 64% of them are willing to do so, according to Nielsen and WWF. So with the 77.5 million people left, then we're looking at technology utilization of innovators, early adopters, majority of people, and laggards. And these are what we came up. So it would take years and years to reach that 7.5 millions, but they can be the change agents. And youth and us can be the main users and first responders and inviting more other people. The last part of my session is to imagine in 10 years can be one of the areas in Indonesia that combines approach of cities to urban development that are sustainable, both at lowering emissions and improving citizens' prosperity. We can also follow one action by one city can be a pioneer, followed by other major cities in Indonesia, and hopefully millions of people and can join the climate action, recovering millions of forest sectors, protect livelihoods for locals and indigenous people. For things that we can do now to support climate action and its science are to reduce first emissions by shifting to low carbon lifestyle, such as using public transport, sequester your emissions if you cannot reduce it by following various carbon sequestration programs, such as planting and growing of trees. Give your critical inputs to science, technology, and methods to calculate emissions. And last but not least, share your stories with as many people as possible, like family, community, and organizations. So by the end of the day, if you can help estimate individual carbon footprints, starting from your own personal level and your family, community, and others, then we are hoping to turn this kind of emissions and pollutants into this kind of world where people can strive in parks with lots of greens and trees and forests. Children are thriving, parents are happy, and hopefully we can build a better future for us all without leaving anyone behind. So that's basically all from my side of the story. I'm much more interested in discussing with you whether you want to know all the details about the theory or how to actually calculate it, or the technicalities of the methods. Feel free to send me questions during this session or afterwards as well. You can go to our website for more details about the project. And thank you, Earth Warriors. Back to you, Bu Heni.
Okay, thank you, Pak Nanda, for such interesting talk. So I think many of you have a question to ask Pak Nanda, or if you're shy, you can just write in the chat box. But if you want to ask questions, you may raise your hand in the Zoom. There's a symbol to raise hand, and then I will unmute you. So if anyone has any question, I'm sure Pak Nanda will be pleased to answer them. Okay, is there any question? Daniel, Jacqueline, Gemma, is there any questions? Or do you want to try to calculate your personal carbon emission? For my handphone, I cannot download the application yet, but maybe some of you have downloaded the application, or Pak Nanda can give some sample maybe, or you can give some sample how to calculate our carbon emission. Or anyone has any questions, please? Okay, Erwin.
Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good
Hello, Sir Nanda.
afternoon.
Good afternoon,
I have a
Erwin.
question to ask, sir. Can you suggest an international application that is available on the App Store or on the Google Play, wherein we can estimate our carbon footprints? Thank you.
Thank you, Erwin. Such a good questions. Pak Nanda?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Erwin. That's a good question. There are actually lots of options, be it in mobile or web version. And I have in my phone now. If you can, I'm not sure if everyone can see it. No, you cannot. Okay. So there are. We have been actually doing some research internationally to find like a good applications on that, because some of them are doing it. One is Oroweco. That's all. I can type it in the chat box. So that's Oroweco. And then you can try also Joro or Plan for the Planet, EcoMatcher. Yeah, basically those four. I find a few more, but I've been looking at their application for some time, and I believe the contents still need to be developed, because simply they are new applications as well. So try those. They have English and versions and a good calculator as well. Some of them even have programs in different countries, not just the country where the app was first made. So that could kind of perhaps help you navigate through the programs. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Pananda. Thanks also, Erwin. So this is the application to calculate your carbon emission. But if you are interested, or if you have the ability to do so, you may develop your own application based on the local knowledge in your country. You can also develop your application. Okay, there's question from I don't know how I call you lazy lazy. You kind of have a hard name to spell. Do you want to talk? No, you're still mute.
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon,
Your
Lizzie.
name is? Your
Lizelle,
name is?
ma'am.
Huh?
Lizelle.
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 Okay, sorry, Lizelle. Please.
It's okay. In your slide, sir, you mentioned about tree plantings. As we all know, tree planting is a very good program because it improves the quality of our surrounding, and also at the same time, it also saves the mankind and the animal world. So my question, sir, is tree planting is also have its lapses, especially in the maintaining it, because as I can observe, uh, we plant trees, but afterwards we tend to neglect it or maintain it. So what in your opinion, sir, what is your suggestion or comments to those to that behavior? At somehow we can eradicate this behavior, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Lizelle. So
Okay, sir.
Pananda plan but not maintain. That's the question. How's your views on this?
Yeah, thank you, Lizelle. I'm sorry, everyone. I have back sound in my home now. I hope you can still hear me clearly. When
Yes. Yes,
that's
yes, we
okay?
can
Okay,
hear you
good.
clearly.
Yeah, thank you. I'll try to get closer to the microphone. Yes, so Lizelle, you raise a good point because one side of the story is to plan and another is to maintain. Just like any other programs, it's much more difficult to do the latter than the former. When it comes to planting, it's just one-time thing, but maintaining it requires years. And there is a proverb saying the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and then the second best one is today. That's basically not just a proverb, and we can say it through science that that's also true, because forest trees need around 20 years to reach its maturity, so that it is able to absorb the amount of emissions that were destined for that trees to do. For example, that mangrove tree that I mentioned earlier, if we are only planting it and then the next year it's gone because of man-made thing or other reasons, it would only reduce emissions by 5 kilograms or even less. But if you can maintain it until at least 10 or 15 years, then the emissions would be reduced, would be 56 kilograms at least. So maintaining it's much more important than actually planting it. So we can focus sometimes more on the quality over the quantity. Also, because the concept of the tree is to store carbon. So if we have that trees fell down naturally or man-made, then basically what has been stored inside that trees will be released back to the atmosphere, and the quality of the soil will be worse than if it were not planted trees in the first place. So what I'm suggesting is if we can manage to deal with the local planting partners so that they can manage the trees in their best possible ways, and have governments locally at least to have a dedicated areas for tree protection and forest management, then we are looking at potentially good implementation of tree planting. And also if that trees are somehow broken or fell down, there are a few programs that we can see to be able to plant that back immediately. So at least we are replanting it so that people can still experience the benefit from there. We can also look at different company programs that are addressing it, this kind of activities as part of their, as part of their corporate social responsibilities, or from their as part of greening from their own value chain or product life cycle. That's something that we should also support. Some of the projects are some of the tree planting are project based, but some of the other ones are jurisdiction based. We have to also look into that specifically. I guess we can talk about that in a complicated context, but I don't think that's the place here now. But a more tree planting programs conducted in a jurisdictional level would be more useful than project ones, simply because it can be integrated with wider urban development context. I hope that answered your question.
Okay, Lizel, is there any follow-up question, or is it okay?
No, sir. Thank you for the clarifications.
Okay, thank you, Lizel. And next, before we read the question from the chat box, Jacqueline has raised her hand.
Yes,
Jacqueline,
I'm here.
please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good day, Nanda.
Good day.
Yeah,
Good day,
okay.
Jacqueline.
Yeah. Currently, I'm working on my PhD study on the wood density assessments, and I'm using the micro drilling device called resistograph. So this is important actually to address the wood density variability, as we quite aware that wood density is one of the important attributes aside from the DPH and the tree height in order to quantify the forest carbon stock. So my question is, perhaps Sananda can share your insight. Have you been engaged into any research that concerning the usage of resistograph, the micro drilling? Because I came across an article from the IPB. They also have used resistograph, the micro drilling device, to assess the wood density per individual tree species, which is actually quite good, more convenient, instead of bring all the wood cores to the laboratory, and it's actually quite laborious. So if we are using the resistograph, we would be able to get the direct reading of the wood density, and we would be able to estimate the forest carbon stocks, the AGB, the forest above ground biomass. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. This is a bit technical questions. Do you have used the tools or something, Pananda? Please.
Yeah, thank you, Jacqueline. That's actually a really good question. And I personally think you are more capable of doing this than me personally, because I've not done my PhD or in that field, or using that kind of approach that you were mentioning. I'm trying to find my there we go. I think this is it. Ooh, I'm sorry, but this is in Indonesia, but I think you can get the gist of it. We are also using wood density approach for the calculation, but we are collecting data from different sources in Indonesia for the wood density information as one of the core equation for the calculator. Let me try to, I'm not sure if we can Are you a bit familiar with Indonesian language? Let me see if you do. I'll just try to share my screen. Yeah. So at first we were looking at stock difference and gain loss method, and then those wood density was also part of the calculation, so that we can try to find out the above ground biomass, the below ground, and all of the other parts of the biomasses. Also, basically we are using allometric methods, models, to find out the carbon stocks, using the volume and biomass for the trees itself. We have not, as far as I understand at this stage, not using the micro drilling method that you mentioned before. I've heard about it, but only a bit. But at this moment, this one, the WD is the wood density that we are using for the attributes and database for the ecologic parts of the trees. Yeah, but we have not been conducting that micro drilling method. I think, I'm not sure if that's quite new, but it would be good to understand a bit more from you later, perhaps, and see if we can generate an even more accurate calculation of wood density, hence the tree sequestration potential of forests and trees. As I mentioned before, the science part of it is still being developed periodically, and it's always open for feedback and transparent inputs from other people. This slide is just to show you the 5 approaches that we are using, the allometric of the trees, and from the most ideal to the most kind of realistic approach to calculating. The details are in our websites, in our paper itself, which is in English. So yeah, so if you look at this also table, there's this wood density that are not applicable for different approaches, but some are, but it would affect the accuracy and accountability of the calculation the more we are going towards approach 5. So yeah, apologies if I cannot really answer your question, but that's the situation we have today.
Okay. Jacqueline is from Malaysia, if I remember correctly. Is
Yes, I'm
from Malaysia?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's from Malaysia, so maybe later, if there is more specific or detailed information that she need to discuss, she may contact you later by email or WhatsApp maybe. Jacqueline, is it okay? The answer is okay? So thank you.
Yeah, I just dropped
And-
my email address in the chat box, Jacqueline.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, President.
Okay,
Welcome.
there is another question from Sachio. Sachio, good evening. I want to ask what kind of tree is the most effective for carbon sequestration effort? And as the plant grow older and slower growth, does the ability of the plant to sequester carbon is reduced? It's a good question from Sachio. Please, Pak Nanda.
Right. Thank you, Bueni. So the question from Sachio, yeah. I want to ask what kind of trees. Yes. So it's kind of difficult to single out the most effective tree for carbon sequestration effort. Because every single tree can have different sequestration number depending on their not just the growth factor such as height or width of the diameter of the logs, or the other status like wood density and everything that Jacqueline mentioned. But it also depends on the location or species, the weather quality, the climate stability and everything. And it depends on what kind of other non-carbon dioxide emissions that you want to reduce. But in our database so far, we understand that blue carbon has been gaining momentum. We are looking at mangrove, for example, that I mentioned, 56 kilograms of carbon dioxide that can be sequestered over the next 15 years. And it's probably not as high, but mangrove actually are a very relatively small plant compared to other trees. So if you know, I'm trying to remember, I think the English name is also Trembesi. Trembesi is a pretty huge, monkey pod tree. So it's also a very big tree. It can sequester up until 28,000 kilograms of carbon dioxide per tree, which is very high compared to mangrove, which is only 56. But it will take tens and 20 or 30 or maybe 50 years to grow. And it requires a lot of land area, which are now very limited, considering we have other priorities like urban development, while we can also plant trees in the city, but it's still kind of limited and difficult to manage. So it was a trade-off, and sometimes we have to choose to focus on the trees or to focus on the urban development. Meanwhile, for mangroves, we can still plant it in coastal areas, which for Indonesia case, we have lots of them. And most of them are still underutilized as well. Then we can make it pretty effective and efficient at the same time. Because 56 is not low compared to some other trees like, again, I forgot the English name. Like mango trees, even, for example, or sour soup, or some other trees can only absorb like 90 kilograms of carbon dioxide or so. But then the cost of building it in terms of funding or areas of land or like societal need to maintain the trees are pretty high compared to, let's say, mangroves, which are pretty relatively easy to plant and also maintain, as long as we have the right methods. If you're talking about efficiency and effectiveness, then mangrove is something that we can look into deeper as one of the most effective ones.
Okay,
as the plant grow older and slower growth, the second part of your question is that
the ability.
The ability. It also depends, I would say, but actually the more the growth in most of the trees that we are observing, it's not exponential. So some of them have kind of stable annual increase in carbon sequestration up until reaching that 56 kilograms for the case of mangroves. Some are having very low emission sequestration in the first years, but then growing very fast in the last years of growth. So it depends on the situation. But we cannot say for sure one single one that's best for all cases.
Okay, thank you, Nanda. Muhammad Matni from Pakistan offer his 2 cents about the ability to sequester carbon. He think that evergreen trees species sequester more carbon. All type of trees sequester carbon, and then younger trees also sequester carbon. When annual increment of the tree growth starts declining, they sequester less carbon. This is his 2 cents on this matter. Okay, there is next question from Amaria. Good afternoon. As for now, do you provide any other solution other than planting trees and energy conservation? Is there any solution? And second question is, are you planning in the future for for development to create more solution through collaboration with corporation maybe. Okay, please, Nanda.
Thank you, Amaria, for the question. So those two, one, planting trees, and second, energy conservation, are two very different solutions to climate crisis. Planting trees is nature-based, so it's driven by the ability to nature to regenerate itself using human help, like us planting the trees, or through forest regeneration by itself. While energy conservation or efficiency or renewable energy are mostly driven by engineering. Even though the sun energy, the solar, or the waves or the winds are from nature, but we use engineering methods to do so. I think the combination of these two would be really good to adapt and mitigate climate crisis, but it's not enough. I mean, the idea of doing this is to only to be a bandage for the damage, I would say, that we have been giving to the environment. The idea is to have more people canceling emissions or reducing emissions in the first place, and only using planting trees and energy conservation as a last resort. Well, in energy situation, it could be also the first solution, because we always will need energy for us to eat, for us to use to electricity, for us to be in this Zoom session. So energy such as renewables and efficiency should be the way to go. Other areas, if you're asking about other solution, we will also be looking at waste management sometimes. So there are ways where we can generate, this is a very, I would say, premature concept, but there is this waste credit system where if we are releasing emissions in one place, then we can reduce emissions in other areas by minimizing waste produced in that areas. And that would be called waste credit, which is similar to carbon credit context to some extent, but focusing on waste management rather than emission management. Your question about more solution through collaboration with corporations, we're actually not planning that, but we are doing it already. So we are working with different companies, such as ride-hailing firms, and food companies and clothing companies, so that they can reduce their operational emissions and the emissions released by their customers and users, so that they can plant trees based on the numbers of products that they purchase or trips that they take in their travels, through planting different types of trees. This is practically in a simple context. It's called carbon offset. They would call it that way, but the context is a bit more complicated than that. And we're looking at some progress where they have been inviting some of their users and customers to do so. But we're also looking at innovations where they want to go deeper into renewable energy or energy conservation or energy efficiency. But we are looking at companies willing to do so, and not just at project-based, but also jurisdiction-based, which is why they need, and us like WRI facilitate them to work also together with governments to be able to scale this up in jurisdictional level approach rather than simply project-based.
Okay, this is to answer questions from Amaria. Okay, before we take one last question from Gemma, I see Gemma has raised her hand. There is another follow-up question from Sachi, Pak Nanda. Is it better to use trees that endemic in the region, or in the effort to sequester carbon, or is I think it's any kind of tree, not free kind of tree, maybe any kind of tree, endemic one or any kind of tree.
Yeah, thank you again, Sachu. So I wouldn't in emission tax in I believe if we are talking about the purpose of the planting tree is to sequester emissions, then any kind of tree is okay, is fine. But the thing is, if we are planting endemic trees in the area of which where the trees are good as an endemic, then we are looking at potential survivability of the tree to be higher than if it's not endemic, which means if it has higher survival rate, then we are looking at potentially reaching the maximum or optimum number of emissions reduced or sequestered by those type of trees. But again, I would say it's impossible to plant only one or two kind of endemic trees in the areas that it is endemic, because we also need biodiversity for the trees to grow and work together with other trees in its surroundings so that it can also survive. So it's not a simple calculation. And hopefully it's also not a zero-sum game where the other trees are kind of eliminating or reducing the benefits of other trees, and hopefully they can coexist together. So there is no, I think, straight answer to your question. It depends on the location, but we also need to consider the biodiversity value of that trees, and it will go way beyond emissions purpose. So it more into how and other plants would live next to it, and it has a different set of metrics to calculate, different set of methods to measure, and different set of challenges.
Okay, thank you, Sacho. There is, if we have time, we'll answer your question, Rose. But right now, let's take Gemma questions. Gemma, let me unmute you. Okay, please, Gemma.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. I am Jama from the Philippines. You've mentioned about the importance of research, science and technology, and funding program, and of course, engaging the youngsters in reducing carbon footprints. Of course, I came from the university where we value research and development. What is your advice for the young youth who are also planning to, to develop an application or creating websites that are related in estimating individual carbon footprints, wherein it serves as action plan to reduce carbon footprints also? That's
okay,
all, sir.
thank you, Gemma. It's a good question. So if you want to develop an application, what the steps are, right? Okay, okay, please, Pak Nanda.
Okay, yeah, it's a very good question because when we try to first develop the application, we were not always entirely sure that this is actually the best possible way to do so, right? What we know so far that millennials, everyone wants to really get attached to their phones, and the first programs that we were developing was related with transportation. So we focus on that, and people use transportation not on their laptop, but on the phones, right? Because like when you order a taxi or ride hailing or anything, mostly you're using your phones. But then, regardless of the technology part, I think marketing or the market part should come first. So when we develop the programs, we wanted to know if people are interested in this initiative, if they are interested in building small climate action, and if they are willing to do so in a less complex ways. Because it's for sure the application is not the first in the world, but the question is how can we generate a very simple enough science and technology approach to a solution for a climate crisis that people can understand easily. I mean, I would bet most of people out there would not immediately understand what carbon dioxide is, or what emission is, or what does 100 kilograms of carbon dioxide means. Is it so much? Is it so less? How does it lead to climate crisis? How does it lead to 1.5 degrees Celsius shift and everything? It's so complicated, and most of the people need really good amount of time to understand that, and most of them are difficult to do so because everyone is busy with their things already, right? And climate crisis perhaps is not in everyone's top of mind because economy and social development usually comes first. So what we were suggesting was to kind of make equivalencies of whatever emission numbers we are generating. For example, in the video that I showed in the beginning, there were mentioning about 2 tons of carbon dioxide generated by Indonesians every year individually, and that is equal to fully charging 240,000 smartphones at the same time. So that's a huge amount of energy being used, and people can imagine how much money or how much difficulties that they have to go through to charge those 240,000 smartphones. So with that simple kind of equivalencies and number relevancies, maybe people would get better idea of how much they are emitting. And this kind of messages have been included in the application as well. Lastly, user interface is a pretty important aspect. It can make or break, I would say, the application, because there are so many applications out there related with emissions or not. So we need to get people attention within 10 seconds of how they are looking at the application. So it has to grab awareness of people, and turning that awareness into further interest where they want to gather more information, and that interest should be turned into further understanding of what emission is, and it should not stop there. The understanding should be transferred into trial actions, which they would evaluate whether their trial action would feel good for them, and then they can reevaluate again whether they want to do it again, that repeat action. And then if they still feel good about it, and then they will continue that as a habit, recommending it to other people and even teaching other people to do so. So it's a pretty long user journey in terms of behavioral science. It's very long process. So it will take years, if not decades, to do so. But it's worth a try. And if you want to develop those kind of applications, it should not be difficult, I think.
Okay, Gemma.
Thank you.
Okay, Gemma. Maybe there is one last question from Rose. Do you mind? We have one last question from Rose before we end the session. Is it okay for you, Nanda?
Yes.
Okay.
Time.
Okay. Last question is from Rose. She just want to ask if is it good idea to establish a tree plantation on abandoned agricultural land?
Thank you, Rose, for the question. Another interesting one, because again, we need to look at how abandoned and what's the soil quality of the agricultural lands, because the tree being planted there means it will sit on top of a land area that might not be ideal for tree planting, because the soil quality, the water quality within the soil, or the air quality around there are not at its best quality if it is in a primary or a virgin forest areas. But then it depends on what kind of tree wants to be planted in the plantation, and what's the situation of the abandoned agricultural lands. I wouldn't say no to do that. It can still be explored, the possibility, the cost and benefit of doing that. But generally speaking, I guess if it can be better planted in areas that are not abandoned agricultural lands, then might generate better results. Yeah, and then also, how do the new plantation also provides agricultural benefits such as food and water, which are for sure definitely needed in many countries. In all countries, they still need to generate more agricultural products for the sake of the food security for the people. So it depends. Again, the answer.
Okay, okay, thank you. Thank you so much for such an interesting sessions. Pananda, is there any maybe last closing statement that you would like to give to the participant?
No, I guess that should be all. I think it has been a very interesting questions. I've been noting it down and wanted to share it with my team later, especially some of the questions that I didn't answer really well, like Jacqueline's. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I've dropped my email address in the chat box. If you can try the application, I know it's only in Indonesian for now. But try to get some of the gist from other applications internationally, so we can further in the future together develop this science-based climate crisis solution. So thank you everyone for the time. I hope you're enjoying it, and apologies for any mistakes or any minuses. Good day everyone, stay healthy.
Okay, thank you, Pananda. Maybe before we end our session, let's take a group picture together with fun filter. You can find filter, and also you can find all kind of filter in the Zoom, like this one. Let's take a fun picture together, since this is the last session of the summer course before we entering the closing session in the summer course. You can use any kind of filter, feel free. We take a final, because this is maybe the last time I see you guys in this summer course session, but let's take a group picture together. Panitia, bisa ngambil gambar kah? Mas Arif? Okay, the committee will take the picture for you guys. Do you want to use filter or just naturally use your natural face? Okay, let's take a fun, let me choose a filter for me. Okay, Mas Arif. Okay. Mas Arif, okay, first slide.
Okay, slide 1.
Slide. Okay, Mas Arif udah? Okay, you can take a rest. Yang bagian slide kedua. Second slide. Second slide. Okay, okay. Thank you everyone. Thank you Pak Noor, Pak Noor lagi, Pak Nanda, Pak Nanda for such insightful talk. And we all should try to reduce more our personal carbon footprints, and then we should ask ourselves, what can I do to reduce my emission? I hope all of you can be an agent of change, like Pak Nanda said. To all the participants, thank you so much for such an active session and active interaction in this session. All your participations. For those who are interested in communicating more, feel free for drop an email to Pananda. He'd share his email in the chat box. Feel free to drop him questions. Okay, thank you everyone, and see you next time maybe. Thank you, bye.
Thank you.
Stay healthy everyone.
Bye Bu Henny, bye everyone. Thank you IPB.
Bye, thank you Pananda.